Have you ever wondered what happens when the future of global power literally runs on batteries? While everyone's talking about Rimaac's revolutionary 6.5-minute charging breakthrough, there's a far more dangerous game playing out behind the scenes that could reshape the entire world order. What we're witnessing isn't just a technological race, it's a complete redrawing of the global power map, where nations that control the flow of electrons will control the flow of influence, wealth, and ultimately the fate of entire civilizations. The solid-state battery revolution represents something far more profound than faster charging times or longer ranges. We're looking at the emergence of what I call the electron empire, where the ability to store and transfer energy at unprecedented speeds becomes the ultimate geopolitical weapon. China currently controls 94% of lithium iron phosphate battery production and processes 70% of the world's lithium, giving Beijing a stranglehold over the technology that will power everything from military drones to entire electrical grids. This isn't just market dominance, it's a systematic strategy to create dependencies that could be weaponized at any moment. But here's where things get really interesting. The breakthrough that Rimac just announced, charging from 10% to 80% in just 6.5 minutes, requires entirely new supply chains and manufacturing processes that China doesn't yet control. The materials needed for solid-state electrolytes, the ceramic and polymer components, the ultra-pure lithium metal anodes, these create new choke points and new opportunities for nations smart enough to recognize what's happening. Taiwan's Prologium, Rimaac's partner in this breakthrough, isn't just making batteries, they're potentially breaking China's monopoly on the future of energy storage. Wait, I need to ask you something really direct. Have you ever felt that sinking feeling when you realize the world is changing so fast around you, and the power structures you thought you understood are crumbling right before your eyes? That sense that while you're worried about your daily life, entire nations are playing a chess game that could determine whether your country remains relevant in the next decade. Look, you're not alone in this. Millions of people are watching these technological shifts without fully grasping how they'll reshape everything from job markets to national security. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by how quickly geopolitical power is shifting toward whoever controls the next generation of technology, write in the comments, "I see the bigger game now." Because when you acknowledge that these aren't just business stories, but power struggles that will define the next century, you're taking the first step toward understanding the real forces shaping your future. The European Union is frantically trying to catch up, announcing a €100 billion investment plan to achieve battery independence by 2035. But they're already 7 to 10 years behind China in battery technology and supply chains. The EU's panic is justified, because they're staring at the possibility of becoming as dependent on Chinese batteries as they were on Russian energy before the Ukraine war. European automakers are watching their factories shut down, while Chinese manufacturers like BYD and CATL flood their markets with cheaper, more advanced alternatives. Volkswagen is literally announcing plant closures in Germany for the first time in its history, and Chinese companies are already eyeing those facilities as potential acquisition targets to bypass European tariffs. Meanwhile, South Korea finds itself in an impossible position. Samsung SDI and LG Energy Solution are global leaders in conventional lithium-ion batteries, but the solid-state revolution threatens to make their current technology obsolete overnight. Seoul is trying to balance its technological partnerships with Taiwan and the United States through initiatives like the Chip 4 Alliance while managing its massive economic relationship with China. Korean battery companies are rushing to establish manufacturing plants across 10 locations in the United States, essentially hedging their bets by diversifying away from Chinese supply chains before it's too late. The real geopolitical earthquake is happening in Southeast Asia, where nations like Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam are positioning themselves as the new battleground for battery supremacy. Indonesia banned nickel ore exports in 2020, forcing battery manufacturers to build processing facilities locally if they want access to 40% of the world's nickel reserves. This downstream industrialization strategy is attracting massive investments from Chinese giants like CATL, but it's also creating opportunities for alternative partnerships with Japanese and Korean companies. Thailand is becoming a hub for both traditional automakers and Chinese EV manufacturers, while Vietnam's VinFast is developing indigenous battery technology alongside Chinese partnerships. But here's what most analysts are missing. The solid-state battery breakthrough doesn't just change performance metrics, it fundamentally alters the strategic calculus of energy security. Traditional lithium-ion batteries require graphite anodes, and China controls 70% of global graphite processing. Solid-state batteries can use lithium metal anodes, potentially reducing this dependency. They eliminate the need for liquid electrolytes, opening up entirely new supply chains for ceramic and polymer materials that aren't currently dominated by any single nation. This creates a window of opportunity for countries willing to invest in next-generation manufacturing capabilities. The military implications are staggering. Solid-state batteries don't just charge faster and last longer, they're much safer, with virtually no risk of thermal runaway or fire. This makes them perfect for military applications, from submarines to unmanned systems operating in extreme environments. China's current battery dominance gives it a significant advantage in developing next-generation military platforms. But the solid-state transition could level the playing field for nations that move quickly enough. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies warns that batteries have become the bullets of the future, and whoever controls advanced battery technology will have decisive advantages in any future conflict. The timeline for this transformation is compressed in ways that should terrify policymakers. Rimac expects commercial availability of their solid-state technology by 2027. Samsung SDI plans mass production by the same year. Toyota, QuantumScape, and CATL are all targeting similar timeframes. This means the next 3 years will determine which nations emerge as the new energy superpowers and which ones become dependent clients in the electron empire. The countries that fail to secure their position in solid-state battery supply chains by 2030 may find themselves permanently relegated to secondary status in the new global order. What makes this even more complex is that solid-state batteries require entirely new manufacturing processes and quality controls. The tolerances are so precise that even minor contamination can destroy entire battery batches. This means the nations and companies that master these production techniques first will have enormous advantages that may be impossible for others to overcome. We're not just talking about a new product, we're talking about a new industrial revolution that will create winners and losers on a scale not seen since the rise of semiconductors. The investment required to compete is staggering. The EU's €100 billion plan is just the beginning. The United States is pouring resources into domestic battery production through the Inflation Reduction Act, but American companies are still years behind in manufacturing expertise. China has the advantage of an integrated supply chain and massive production scale, but the solid-state transition creates vulnerabilities in their current dominance that smart competitors could exploit. Here's what keeps me up at night. We're witnessing the emergence of a new form of technological colonialism, where nations that control advanced energy storage will be able to dictate terms to everyone else. Unlike oil, which can be stored and transported relatively easily, advanced battery technology requires continuous innovation and manufacturing excellence. Countries that fall behind won't just lose market share, they'll lose the ability to power their own economies and defend their own territories. The Rimac breakthrough is just the beginning. As solid-state batteries enable new applications from grid-scale energy storage to hypersonic vehicles, the nations that control this technology will have the power to reshape global commerce, military balance, and even basic infrastructure. The electron empire is rising, and the window for countries to secure their independence is closing faster than most people realize. Look, I know that navigating all these geopolitical shifts can feel overwhelming, especially when you're trying to understand how technological changes happening in research labs today will affect your job security, your country's competitiveness, and your family's future tomorrow. The speed at which battery technology is reshaping global power structures can make anyone feel like they're constantly playing catch-up with forces beyond their control. That's exactly why I created this channel, to help you see beyond the headlines and understand the real power dynamics that mainstream media either ignores or oversimplifies. Here, we don't just report on technological breakthroughs, we analyze how they shift the balance of power between nations, and what that means for people like you who want to understand the world before it changes completely around them. If you want to stay ahead of these massive geopolitical transformations and see how technology is really reshaping global power, consider subscribing to the channel. This isn't about collecting subscribers, it's about building a community of informed people who understand that the future belongs to those who can see the bigger game being played. The subscribe button is right there, and it would be an honor to have you join us in making sense of this rapidly changing world.